Right, it's Blair Denwick here from the Kirkcaldy Reminiscence Group podcast. Meeting at Glenrothes campus with Scott Hastie. We'll just introduce ourselves.
I'm Douglas Bell.
I'm Archie Scott.
I'm Susan.
I'm Pat.
I'm Linda.
I'm Karen.
Thanks a lot, folks. A few weeks ago, I met with Douglas and Karen, and we did a bit of recording on words and the vernacular. So thinking about Kirkcaldy, Fife dialects and words that might be strange to some folk. And we kind of felt that it would be good to bring in yourselves to talk about words that you remember that we maybe didn't cover. Just as a kick-off. So we'll get Douglas to read out a piece that he's written, which is really excellent. It will give us a starting point.
Thank you, Blair. This is a made-up diary note which seeks to illustrate some fairly old Scots words and some of the local vernacular. It begins, I keeked out the windy, it made me gawp. It was blon a hoolie, it's oorie and dreich wi' a snell drappin' druth. But I'm nae Jessie Pont, now I'll just hae to gan out, even when the scurries, the spjugs, the corbies and cushies are biding in, but out I hae to be. I hae to meet with this nab. Naebody says to him neebs, mair like his nibs, as he has his curny-wurny and money a pie. Can ye dither? Gone to be late, I'm too stechy now to lunt up that brae, as I used to day. Get my jacket frae the cleek ahint the scullery door, put the sneck on, grab my grovet and old dugget jumper, get weel happit, it's cold out there. Afore I go, I'll stick some churls and dross on the hearth to keep a small fire going. I'm looking for it to a wheel-mast cup of tea and to wire into the scran the day. Stovies I'm telt, if they're nae too wish. I'm getting late now, but nae gone to fash mysel. I'll hirple on, no get ill-gashient, no be late, looking glaikit or gite, hadden my wheesht, being polite.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Magic.
Very good.
Aye, that's a wonderful piece of writing, Douglas. And one of the words that you mentioned when we met together was the word pink. Now, pink, for those that haven't heard it or don't know, was a word that was used to describe somebody that was rather posh. To my dad, it would have been rather posh, because if we went in and used any of these words, we would get talk proper. So we didn't get to talk about I and a ken, or all these words that were kind of, they weren't exactly banned, but you just didn't say them. And then once I went to school, I started getting, your guy posh you. And that was in Kirkcaldy, because I didn't speak the same as everybody else. I'd been brought up to speak the Queen's English, as was then, the Queen. But I do remember from my days sitting beside my grandpa when he was listening to the football results, getting to wish, because he sat there and the wireless was whistling away and he couldn't hear his pool's results coming through, and he was sure that one day they were going to come up. He was going to win that. I didn't care how much it would be, but it was nothing like $1 million then.
It was something in like 700 and something. It was a lot of money. I think the pools were about 7 and 6 in my days.
Yeah.
But I won twice.
Did you?
But so did about 100 other folk at the same time.
So you had to share.
I bought a suede coat off one of the winnings.
My goodness. That shows you the prices at that time. You had, for what I remember, the pool's coupon had lines. So you paid so much per line.
That's right.
And then you would have the option of doing different different scores or different, whether it was a win, a lose, or a draw, or whatever. So you would pay out so much per line. And then, of course, you were judged on the line that you got.
But not something like 10 to 13 or something that you had to.
Aye,
Match
that's, yep, that's it, exactly.
8 score draws.
No,
24
8-score draws.
was the,
That's
was the
right,
highest
8
jackpot.
draws.
That's right.
Yeah, but just for a points total with the ones, twos, threes, it's more like 8 to 13.
Aye. But it was a strange thing because it was every Saturday night we seemed to be at my grandpa's, and he was always, if you like, he was almost curled up listening to the wireless. He had his ear against the wireless, and of course it was crackling away and whistling. So the wireless was bad enough, and if we started chattering or carrying on, then it was the case of wished. And now I didn't say it because I'm feared to lose my teeth.
But to go back to the use of the word pink, it was my grandmother that used that word when somebody was trying to talk in a very posh way.
Right.
I remember when I was a teacher very, very early on, I got a letter from this wee boy in the class from his mum. Not from the wee boy himself, who was off ill, but from his brother or sister, I can't remember now exactly. But the mother was obviously trying to talk posh. And she said, forgive wee so-and-so for not coming in today because he's got bronchitis. Meaning, she thought it was the posh way to say bronchitis.
That's another wee story that comes with that one. It was a rugby club do, and I overheard, or should I say I was listening in, and I overheard a couple of the guys talking, and one of them said, it was raining whole stones. And I thought, hailstones, whole stones. And the next one was, and when he picked it up, he knocked the tray over and it skied it across the flare. And it was just so odd hearing these words coming for the rugby club.
Some of these words in there are quite interesting in the sense that you don't hear them now at all. The word lunt means to walk briskly. You very rarely hear that nowadays because it's got sound implications which some people don't.
Sure.
Scran is commonly used. Churls and dross, I think we probably refer to that as putting small coals on the fire.
Trucks on the fire.
Just I'd heard. I hadn't heard skirts.
No, dross.
I don't know about any other words in there that are dugget jumpers are fairly commonly used. A dugget jumper is when it's got little swirls of balls of wool.
That's right. Aye, that was another thing my dad did. He used to have dross that he kept in a pail, and he used to soak it. So last thing at night, he would bank up the fire with the dross, and because it was damp and wet, all it did was stifle the flames and stifle the fire, so it kept it going for longer. So you got the heat that bit longer.
That certainly would make your lum reek.
That certainly did.
We used to do something similar when I stayed in Dufcote when it was
Aye.
the fireplace in every room. And at night when we got to bed in the winter, it'd be a shuffle for the cinders, some
Aye.
dross on the top
Aye.
for all
That's
night
it.
in the bedroom.
Aye.
We used to get that same thing. We had fireplaces in every room. The bedrooms up the stairs. Even Hey Gavin knew it was one of the first council houses in Kirkcaldy. And if you were not well, Mum used to bring a shovel full of hot and put it in the fire so the room got warmed up. But when they redid the houses, they actually took all the fireplaces out.
Yeah.
Not the same in Winifred's.
Aye.
Aye. It's a bit of a shame we lost out on that, I think. We used to have a coal fire right in
Who's
it,
that
but
one? It's Lindsay's off.
Sorry.
Is that yours? Well,
The reference in there, Blair, to nab is you,
all right.
because you're a man with your curny, wurny and money a pie.
I'll say I have.
It's not a rude term. It
No.
means somebody who's got
Their
some
finger in a
authority and
pie.
status.
Oh, yes, aye. Got their finger in
Very
lots of
interest.
pies. Aye.
We'll say it that way.
Aye, it's a... Your curny though, your pinky was always referred to as your curny. Aye.
Nobody else thought of any other words that
Well,
were...
last night I was speaking to my cousin, just organising, because I go down to see her now after this, and she said, tapsaltiri.
Tapsaltiri.
Tapsaltiri. I'd never heard it before, but she said when she was a wee girl, she'd gone to the neighbours. She says, I was quite a sort of forward little girl, and I went into the neighbours and I came out and said, Mum, her house is all tapsaltiri, meaning it was like a midden.
Aye, untidy. Aye.
She got a thick ear for it.
Aye, a couple of other words we were using the other day there, and talking about something being below the bed. So it was like the pot, the chamber pot,
Right.
was below the bed.
Yeah.
So it was below the bed. Or ahent the door.
That's right.
So if you did anything, ahent the door. Aye.
And I liked Karen's one yesterday. I'll bring plenty scoosh,
Oh, right, yes.
which reminded me of sugarelly water.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, my father used to say about sugarelly water.
That was just
What was that?
licorice and water.
Licorice and water.
Aye.
Licorice, hard licorice. You put it in a bottle of water and put it in a dark place. You were always told, put it in a dark place.
Bed.
It wouldn't have
In
made
below
any
the bed.
difference, I don't think.
No, it
And
was
then-
still horrible.
You shook it up and it was frothy on the top and black looking.
Uh-huh.
We thought it was lovely, but it was more likely horrible.
I thought you just made it
I
up.
looked up that word yesterday, Karen, scoosh.
Scoosh.
It's American origin.
Ah,
Oh, right.
right.
Scoosh in Scots is a squirt.
Uh-huh.
Whereas
A scoosh
scoosh
is
in
a
American was imported during the wartime from the States,
Right.
apparently.
Right.
Ah,
I didn't
right.
know that either, but
I had a look at that one as well, and scoosh was quite a lot of different things. It's the scooshy cream and
Yeah.
the scoosh your bottle of juice.
Yeah, yeah.
These are different
A squirt.
things.
Aye. Aye. It's,
My brother came out the word yesterday to, and not heard it in a way, Corrie Wicket.
Oh, that's
Oh,
me.
aye.
Oh, I like that.
Oh, I
Yeah.
use that a lot
Do
because
you?
I'm left-handed. I'm Carrie Wicket.
Is that what that
Wicket
is?
as well as the other.
Well, you could use right or left hand, which I do.
all these terms.
Yeah.
It's quite sad in a lot of ways that we're no longer using words. It's almost like technology has stopped so much in terms of the language that we use, because now it's got to be seen to be politically correct, and it's also got to be seen to be technologically correct. Otherwise, when you've got your mobile phone, you try and put something in, and it gives you a word, or it puts in a word that you weren't even thinking about. And sometimes it could be quite embarrassing because it comes away with these things that there's no way you would use. And if you didn't check your phone, then it's gone.
Yeah.
So in a lot of ways, the language that was then was much more relevant and much more explanatory. And, it's like the word dreich. There's no better word in language.
I think we do use that one quite a lot.
Yeah.
Well, our age group anyway, but it's the next age group, or two age groups down, I think, that are going to be losing a lot of these terms.
Yeah.
You know?
But again, just that word dreich, when you say it, it's got that guttural sound that says it for exactly what it is.
That's a
Dismal,
marvellous
grey. Sorry?
it's a marvellous word.
It is brilliant, aye. But there's so much of Scots that is just explanatory. You didn't have to say any more than that.
The professor giving a talk to the class was talking about the use of negative and positive words, and he said there's no language in the world where a double positive means a negative, and the voice from the back of the room said, "Aye, right."
Aye, but even words where, you know that I grew up with the road maps, and if we're going to Kinnacher, we're going to Kinnacher, no Killiconker.
That's right.
And that, when you hear the BBC announcer talking about places in Scotland, and they come away with these absolute stupid words. But in a lot of ways, the Queen's English, it's what I would term a mongrel language anyway, because there's no such language as English. It's made up of Latin and Greek and French and German. So when people talk about speaking the Queen's English, there isn't any such thing.
Even words got brought back from India and things like that. So
That's right.
It's
That's all. Aye. It all comes in.
That reminds me, Archie, my grandfather, he was in India for many years, and he used to use a word referring to somebody he didn't like that was not somebody to keep good company with, as a banshoot.
Oh, right.
And I'm sure that's a Hindi word,
Right.
Yeah.
possibly.
like bungalow and many other words that we brought back.
Bang shoot. Never heard that one.
I've got a few band shoots.
Come on then.
Use that word.
Aye.
I wrote a couple of things down, just going through them, because I really enjoyed reading this. This was good. But I've got flag. I've got a right flag. And cuddy for a horse. And civer.
For a time.
Now,
Cundy.
just what I was going to say, Dundee, they call it a cundy.
Cundy.
And I'd never heard it used as that before, a cundy.
What's a cundy?
Drain,
Drain.
a civer.
The drains at the side of the road to take the water away.
And then a piece on jam. Did you have that in there? Aye, I thought you did. And cowp,
To tip something over. Eh?
barket, meaning really dirty. And scalp.
Scale.
Had that a few times.
As,
Had that, aye.
as Billy Connolly said, they said the wrong thing when they said, I'll tack my hand off your jaw. It should be that way. It's not that way. And haver, did you have that in there as well? No. Glaket. And you've got keek in there. And scoosh. That was it. Midden, that was the other one.
But Dinny Haver, that was always, oh, stop your havering.
That's right.
Telling a load of rubbish.
As in the Proclaimers song, they use a lot of these words in
Yeah.
some of their
That's
tunes.
right.
So they try to make their songs in the Scots.
Aye,
Yes.
that's right. But,
Aye, stop your havering. What's the other one? You know, if you didn't stop greeting, I'll give you something to greet about. And what's
The wind, isn't it?
Sorry.
Something about the wind as well. Your face.
Aye.
What was that again?
He's in it.
Your
If you
your
didn't
face
change
will
your
stay
face,
like that.
the wind will get in the wind, you'll end up staying
And
like
someone
that. Aye,
was
something along that line.
if you done this,
Straighten your face.
stop looking
Straight.
like that. It's,
Aye.
that's right.
There's some wonderful words.
Some of the words that I thought my grandpa made up, like chuddy and scoosh. I actually did think that he just made them up. That it was his own way of speaking.
No,
Because he used to talk about navy green knickers, because he was colourblind. But he was colourblind, so he saw colours, but just different colours. Like I think he got blue and green. I think it was green that he saw rather than blue.
Aye.
So I used to think, like, he's just being silly again, saying chuddy, but I think a lot of people did use chuddy for chewing gum. Yeah.
Chuggy, yeah.
Chuggy. That's
So he wasn't
the,
as silly as I thought.
but that's the other thing about language. You find that, like Dysart, for example, was mainly mining community. So you're looking at a miner's language almost that they had to use down the pits, because if they didn't use a certain language in a certain way, then they weren't heard. Nobody heard what they were saying.
You could end up dead.
Aye, absolutely. And similarly to Dundee, where the Dundee sound is eh, and that goes back to the mills and how they had to be heard over the machines that were at a different level, so they had to use the sound eh.
they did a lot of lip reading as well.
That's right. Yeah,
Because of that, the sound and signs as well.
yeah.
But,
Yeah, in the mills, sometimes it's a sound with sign language as
Yeah.
well, because they couldn't hear.
that's it.
The one again that Douglas talked about, and there's a wee verse that I can't remember, but it's talking about Ben. Come ben the house.
Ben
or-
the house.
Aye.
Your
Gun
feather
ben the
wax.
room.
Go and bend the hoose, your feathers watting you.
Aye.
So it's either a corridor or a mountain in Scotland. That's what
Right.
I'm saying.
Aye.
But
It's,
even the word that I'm talking about in the house, I mean, it wasn't the hall, it was the lobby
aye.
and the scullery,
Aye.
Yeah, the
The bunker.
and Ben the house and the bunker.
Aye.
You know, there was
The
quite
big
a-
licht.
The big,
Yeah,
but the big light out.
Aye. I still say that. I had the big light on.
My husband,
An interesting word because that's actually borrowed from the Scots link with France.
all right, right.
The French word for a scullery is esculier,
Right.
and you can see the connection there. And that's obviously from the time when Bonnie Prince Charlie and the Jacobites and all these other folk were strong links with France.
Yeah.
A lot of the Scots language has got French origins.
Yeah.
And some of it Dutch as well, because
Yes.
Dyser used a word, a bism, a brush,
Aye. Yeah.
which is coming through the Dutch.
Yeah. And Kirk, the same. That's a Dutch word.
My friend
Kirke.
lives
Aye.
in, a friend of mine lives in Denmark, and I was always laughing at the fact the Hoover is called a sukker.
Sugar.
So it's, I mean, when you think
Aye.
about it, soaking stuff up. So that word obviously comes from souk. Obviously comes possibly from there. But sukker. I'll get my sukker out and clean the
But
house.
even the word Kirkcaldy, just what Douglas was saying there, it's the kirk is from Dutch, yeah? Mm-hmm. But it was the kirk of the Chaldees. So the Chaldees were the people of that area. So it was the kirk of the Chaldees. So you got your Kirkcaldy. So it's strange how all these words, they're there, but we don't know just where they've come from.
Dyser was another one. There's so many different explanations to where that name comes
That
from.
name, yeah.
Oh, there's so much.
Where did it come from, do you know? No, no.
I've tried looking and
Aye.
I get so many different.
Aye. It's like we used to go picking sequel as kids. My family, the whole family went just about every Sunday, including the winter time when you needed the coal anyway. But we used to go to the back of the Aisler. Now the word Aisler, that was always, where does that come from? But the Aisler was that the stone, the quarry that was there. So the back of the Aisler was referring to Rooms.
The outcrop that's still there with the tunnel.
That's
there.
right. That's right.
It's a French word.
Aye.
Aye. The French stonemasons came across and worked at Dysart,
That's right.
and they used to call it the Aisler in French, and it became the Aisler
Aisler.
in Dysart speak.
But the back of the Aisler, it was a favourite haunt of ours,
Oh, I know.
as it would be with Archie, because he was Dysart.
So the tunnel, deviating, the tunnel, was that actually to do with the quarry or what were you talking about?
Probably the quarry, yeah.
Well, that was
alright.
actually dug by the ship people, the merchants,
Right.
to take ballast stones from the merchant vessels that came into the harbour. When they came into Dysart Harbour, they were empty. And because of the North Sea, etc., coming from Denmark and Holland and places like that, they had to carry big stones in the ship to keep it stable in the water.
Right.
And going back the way, of course, it was full of produce. So they used to take the stones out of the boat and they dug a hole through the rock to dump the stones on the foreshore. And that's why there's some great big boulders
At the
sitting
back
there.
of the
yes.
Aisler.
Yeah.
It was all ballast out of boats.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh, fascinating
The
stuff.
things that you learn, eh?
I know. And like that, a lot of that I didn't know at all because I was never really told. It was always just, back at the Aisler. Nobody ever explained it to you. And it's only when you start to think about, as adults, right, I need to find out what it refers to.
Right.
So when we were wee, folk would come down, where's the Ashler? Where's the Ashler? We didn't get we called it Ashler.
That's it. Fascinating stuff.
We're losing a lot of that with the advent of communications, and we no longer sit and talk to each other.
That's right.
I remember when I was a wee boy, I actually sat in the front window in the fairway, and one of my hobbies was taking down car numbers. Can you believe how boring that would be? And you
I
could
used
get
to
one
do.
car every
So
5
did
minutes
I.
if you were lucky. And you could do that, but nowadays...
We used to go, I stayed in Hague Avenue, and we used to go to Cairn Street because that was kind of where cars went. There was only 2 cars in Hague Avenue and Kilgour Avenue, and used to sit down on the bottom bit and sit and take car numbers down and say, oh, that's a different one.
But then when you think about it, you know, for us, in the back of the car, there were 3 of us, mum and dad, and we would always sitting there with wee notebooks and our pencils, and we would be taking down all the car numbers.
That's right.
And it was seen as a bit of a competition,
Yeah.
but it was done in a way that was like creating a wee bit of fun in the car, but it was also giving your mum and dad peace. Because if you were doing that, you weren't doing and are we not there yet? Are we getting there? When are we getting there? Are we getting our tea? But, you know, it stopped all that. So these things were set up, I'm sure, with your mums and dads.
It was colours as well, because they were nearly all black.
Black, that's
And if you see a car that was a different colour came past,
That's right.
That was Ford, wasn't it, that said that you could have any colour you want as long as it's black. Aye. Anyway, right. Maybe enough on that topic. But I want to bring Susan in, because Susan was talking to me last week and mentioned that the 1 week that she felt that she had something to contribute to, she wasn't able to come. And that was on clubs and groups. So I'm going to bring Susan in just to give something as to what you were thinking about, Susan.
Yes, well, I think I started off in the Brownies for the lasted 2 weeks.
Right.
Then I went to Highland dancing. But I think most girls were sent to Highland dancing, weren't they?
Yeah.
Did that. And then, what was the one I did? Well, I joined the Girls' Guildry
Right.
when I was maybe about 12, something like that. And the teacher, she said to us, now, we're going to church on Sunday. She says, so we're going to... well, she said why she didn't say what I thought she said. So I went home and said to Mum, we're going to the church on Sunday. We're going to a Roman service. And Mum says, never heard of a Roman service. But it turned out to be an enrolment service.
Enrolment.
So then I joined the Teenage Operatic Society when I was about 13. So I was there for about 3 years doing all the different operas, and that was in there. So I brought along some photos, which I'll let you see later.
So what kind of operas did you do then, Susan? Do you remember any of them?
You know, I don't. And I've
doesn't
had the
matter.
books for such a long time.
But were you a
But
singer?
they were
Did you enjoy it?
Yeah, I loved it.
Aye.
Yeah, and I always, I would never audition for a main part
Right.
until my very last.
Right.
And I was, I liked that one. I was called Lady Anchester.
Oh,
And
wow.
I can still remember my line. And I'm going to introduce you to a wonderful young man.
Wonderful. Your claim to fame, eh?
It was,
did you have to sing that?
well, you were just, yeah.
Well,
No,
sing
that
it.
was said.
Sing it.
Yeah. Oh no. No, no. I was arm in arm with a wonderful young man.
All right. Aye. Aye, it's quite fascinating. So you've got photographs anyway, but I will see them after. Okay, right. In that case, we'll leave it for this time, and thank you all for coming along. But our topic next time, which is on the 22nd of July, and that's again with Scott Hasty from the college. I'll be up here. But what I thought we could talk about, because we've been talking about words, and Douglas mentioned the aspect of communication, how it's changed. What I thought we could talk about was not only how language has changed, but how our communication has changed. So thinking about technology and how, to me, it's almost destroyed that our communication as people in society. So that's the topic for next time. So if you have a think about it, and we'll give it a good crack. Okay.
I don't think destroy is probably actually correct. It's changed. Because in many ways the technology has improved our communication. I mean, I can talk to you and Karen and Archie and Susan in ways that I could never do before,
Sure.
all through technology. So, and we're enjoying that technology when we're here today.
Yeah. I suppose it's just as a society and our face-to-face communication, it's changed quite dramatically.
But it's people like you, Blair, who have groups like this
I
that
know.
keep it going.
I know, it's wonderful. Eh?
Well done, well done, your nabs.
Your nerves.
Fairly old Scots words and some of the local vernacular. It begins, I kicked out the windy, it made me gawp. It was blown a hoolie. It's Uri and Dreich wi' a snell drippin' druth. But I'm nae Jessie Pont. Now I'll just hae to gan out. Even when the scurries, the spjugs, the corbies and cushies are biding in. But out I hae to be. I hae to meet with this nab. Naebody says to him neebs, mair like his nibs, as he has his curny-wurny and mony a pie. Canny dither, gone to be late, I'm no too stechy now to lunt up that brae, as I used to day. Get my jacket frae the cleek ahint the scullery door, put the snack on, grab my grovet and old dugget jumper, get weel happit, it's cold out there. Afore I go, I'll stick some churls and dross on the hearth to keep a small fire going. I'm looking for it to a wheel-mast cup of tea and to wire into the scran the day, stovies I'm telt, if they're nae too wish. I'm getting late now, but nae gone to fash mysel. I'll hirple on, no get ill-gashient, no be late, looking glaikit or gite, hud my wheesht, being polite.
That's wonderful.